Susan Mabry for roll call.
Chairman Marty Smith.
Here.
Vice Chairman Vicki Anderson. Here. Commissioner Tommy Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Michelle Morgan. Here. Commissioner Lee Powers.
Here.
Commissioner George Chambers.
Here.
Thank you.
This time we're going to call on District 5 Commissioner Lee Powers for the invocation, followed by District 3 Commissioner Tommy Lee for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. Dear Lord, thank you for the people that work for us, dear Father. And dear Lord, I ask you right now to please keep them safe. Dear Father, be with the families that was involved in that last accident last night. Dear Father, please be with our servicemen, our first responders around this nation and around Carroll County. And dear Lord, just please be with each and every one of us up here and help us make the decisions that would be honoring to you. And we ask everything in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Let us stand. Thank you. Item number 5 on tonight's agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Item number 6 is approval of tonight's minutes for the Governance Education Work Session meeting minutes from January 27th, 2018, along with the commission meeting minutes from February 6th, 2018. Look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Now we'll move to the public comments. No one signed in. All right, that makes it easier for there. We'll move right into item number 8 on tonight's agenda, which is the financial session. Item 8.1, we're going to call on Lehman Stevens, Finance Director, to go and give us a financial recap for January 2018.
All right, thank you, Chairman. January 2018, our year-to-date revenues for the general fund were $35,694,000. That is 72% of the budgeted revenues for the year. That compares to revenue for January 2017 year-to-date of $33,467,000. So we've had an increase from 2017 to 2018 of $2.2 million in revenue. Our expenditures, January 2018 year-to-date, total $27,882,000, and that's 57% of the general fund budgeted expenditures, and compares to the prior year of $27,444,000. So that is an increase in expenditures of $438,000 over the prior year. At January 31st, 2018, the general fund balance was $17,974,000, and that compares to January 2017 of $15,080,000. So our fund balance has increased $2.8 million. The general fund cash on January 31st was $18,520,000 compared to January 2017 of $16,633,000. So our general fund cash has increased $1.8 million over the year, and that's approximately 137 days of operating cash at January 31st.
Any questions for Lehman? Seeing none, we'll move to item 8.2. Carroll County Development Authority, I think we have representation as we discussed at the work session and at both work sessions. We'll look for a motion from the board to approve the other half of $500,000 to purchase real estate for the economic development purposes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. We'll move to item 8.3. Probate court position, is Judge Betty Cason here? And seeing none, at our work session, Judge Cason presented her request for an approval of a new position in probate court for administering the court's mental health advocacy program, and to ratify the chairman's assurance for a grant to administer the mental health pre-trial diversion program. Look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to let y'all know I serve on that board.
Absolutely. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is through a, grant.
For a grant? Yes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Morgan, for serving. Next, we'll move into the business session, item number 9. At this time, I'm gonna call for public hearing to ask for comments on the resolution to abandon Old Folds Road. Are there any comments for the public hearing for the resolution to abandon Old Folds Road? Seeing none, at this point, we'll close the hearing. We're gonna call on County Attorney Stacy Blackman to come and discuss item 9.1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is to abandon .16 acres on Old Folds Road for the relocation of the road. All the notices have been sent to the adjoining neighbors and the ads have been published, so if you determine that it's no longer necessary, you could abandon it and authorize the chairman to dispose of the property.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, this time, we'll call on the county planner. We'll move into item 10, into the zoning session. We'll call on county planner, Ms. Janet Ide.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. First of all, I want to read the standards for considering zoning decisions. You might note that in your packets, the staff report has changed a little. These standards will now be included in the written report. I will still read them if it's the desire of the Commission, but they will be included in the report. Number 1, the decision of the Board of Commissioners to approve in whole or part, reject, condition, or delete an application for rezoning shall be based on, but not limited to, a consideration of the following criteria: whether the zoning proposal will permit a use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property, whether the zoning proposal will adversely affect the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property, whether the zoning proposal will result in a use which will or could cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools, whether the zoning proposal is in conformity with the policy and intent of the land use plan, and whether there are other existing or changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the zoning proposal.
Thank you, Janet. We'll go over policies and procedures governing the conduct of zoning hearings for tonight. The applicants or proponents of the zoning application shall be allowed 10 minutes to present data, evidence, and opinion. Those opposed to the zoning application shall be allowed 10 minutes to present data, evidence, and opinion. At that point, we'll allow both sides to rebuttal, 5 minutes apiece, and I think staff's gonna do our best to keep time there and inform us. That will, if you'll call on applicant 1, Janet.
Yes, I'm not sure that this applicant is here at this time, and they've asked if we could postpone their case until later in the meeting.
For tonight.
For tonight.
Still keeping it in
yes.
there? Absolutely.
Oh, he is here? I'm sorry. He
Oh,
is,
they
he
are
has
here?
arrived, yes.
Okay.
Okay, the first case is a rezoning for 2635 Highway 166 East. The applicant is Gary Smith, application Z-18-01-02. It's a rezone property from ag to commercial. Consists of 0.6 acres. It's in land lot 140 of the 5th District, parcel number 1310220. It's in Commissioner Powers' district. Staff has recommended approval of this, Planning Commission recommended approval. Mr. Smith is trying to sell this property. It has a small commercial building on it already. It's nearby other commercial property, and the future land use, it is in the urban growth area. And the applicant is present to speak.
All right, thank you. Call on the applicant.
To give you a little history on this piece of property, thank you for listening to me, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The property is zoned agricultural. Previous owner had purchased the property and got a variance from the county to build a commercial building on it, and they operated a repair shop for motorcycles and that type of thing out of it. It's changed hands a couple of times since then, and the previous owners, or prior to myself, they also obtained, or the tenants did, the permission for the variance and obtained a business license to operate businesses out of that building on the property. When I bought the property, I did not operate a business out of it, so I did not get a business license. And with the lapse and continuation of having a business license, then apparently it's no longer considered commercial property. Although during the entire time I've owned the property, I continued to pay the commercial property taxes, you know, to the county on it. So it never, as far as the tax assessors knew, it never did go back to being agricultural. I paid commercial taxes on the property. And now that I'm wanting to sell the property, everyone who is interested in it, of course, you know, 6/10 of an acre, they're not going to farm it. They want it for the commercial building, but it seems to be a hang-up trying to get them to agree to a purchase-sale agreement. They don't want to go through what I'm going through now to come before the commission and, you know, maybe invest their money in the property and then not get the zoning changed. So I'm just here to do that, and thank you for listening.
Is there anyone else here in favor of this to speak tonight?
Not that I know of.
Okay. All right, well,
Did you state your name?
Oh, my name is Gary Smith. I am my address is 3305 Lakeview Parkway in Villa Rica. That's in Fairfield.
thank you. Following the procedures, we'll ask, is there anybody in opposition of item 10.1 under the zoning session? Asking again, anyone here in opposition of item 10.1? Seeing none, we'll open up for discussion or a motion from the board.
On this commercial piece of property, I went out there and looked at it. You know, there's, right there, it's right behind the triangle, and I mean, what
Yes.
kind of, the access to 166, I mean, it's hard to get in there and out, especially when there's any traffic right there. I mean, have y'all addressed any of them problems with that?
I did not have any problems with it because I was using the building for storage, just my personal storage. I never rented the building to anybody else or had any high traffic in and out of it. The people that I've had interested, the buyers that have been interested in it, one of them was wanting to use it for the same type thing, just storing equipment in. He's got a lawn maintenance business, and he wanted to store his mowers and tools and stuff like that in it, so it wouldn't be a high traffic area like a retail, like a Dollar General or, you know, a retail establishment. There's been one other party interested in it that was wanting to put a transmitting tower, a radio transmitting tower on it. So there again, it wouldn't be a high traffic thing. I mean, if I sold the property to someone who was going to have any traffic concerns, I mean, it would be the buyer's responsibility to have the GDOT survey and whatever expense it would incur to, you know, put an egress lane or whatever in on the highway.
Yeah, the only problem that I have, it's only a half acre, and it's right there behind the triangle, and it's really, really hard to get in and out for a commercial piece of property, because once we zone it commercially, I mean, it's commercial forever, and
True.
but it's definitely not agriculture.
make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, sir.
The next case is a conditional use application C-18-02-02. The applicant is Michael Kinney. He's requesting a conditional use for a secondary detached dwelling at 3200 Old Van Wert Road in Villa Rica. The parcel consists of 7.5 acres, land lot 198 of the 6th District, tax map 1460080. This is in Commissioner Lee's district. Mr. Kinney has a shop on his property that he'd like to convert into a house for his daughter. So this will be a secondary detached dwelling on the same parcel. Mr. Kinney is present.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Kenny. The address is 3200 Old Van Wert Road, Villa Rica, Georgia. And the place that is there, I've owned for 18 years. The building that is detached went through all of the permitting process with Carroll County, and it does have its own power, its own septic, its own well, and its own entrance aside from the main house there. And as stated, you know, we would like to convert it over for our daughter to be with us. So that's all I had.
Anyone else in favor to speak tonight?
Not that I know of.
Okay. We'll stop the clock. We'll do the same under the rules and guidelines for the governing of the hearing. Item 10.2, we'll ask, is there anybody in opposition of item 10.2? Second request, anybody in opposition of item 10.2? Seeing none, now we'll look for motion from the board.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next case is rezoning application Z-18-02-01. Applicant is Ricky and Virginia Stover. They're asking to rezone property from ag to R2 in order to sell a 2.85 tract of land located at the corner of Nugget Road and Oak Grove Church Road. This is land lot 62 of the 11th District, tax map 193-0101. This property is in Commissioner Powers' district. What I've just handed you is a plat that I think may have been left out of the packet that you were given. The subject tract is tract A on that plat. That's the only piece of that parcel that they would like to rezone to R2. The applicant is just asking to rezone this because it's a leftover parcel when he splits the rest of the parcel into 4-acre tracts. The applicant is present. Staff recommended approval for this, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you.
My name's Richie Stover. I'm here for the rezoning of the parcel. I own 40 acres there. I've had it close to 16 years. And I own 25 across the street from this 15-acre parcel. When I bought the place years ago, I come up to the board about dividing that up. Of course, the bottom fell out of the market in that time, and I held on to it. Now we're 60 years old, close to it, so we want to sell some of that. We paid close to $60,000 in taxes while we've been here. We've got that lot sold. I'm not looking to put a subdivision there. I'm going to hang on to the other 4-acre tracts and possibly sell those as 4-acre tracts, because I do own the house and the land across the street, so I don't want a lot of houses in there. But this one's down Nugget Road, and I own plenty of road frontage there, and I'd just like to get that And right next door to that also is an R2 zoning, a house built on 2 acres, next door to that lot.
Okay, Mr. Stover, anybody else here to speak in favor?
Other than my wife.
Okay, all right. We'll ask under the rules and governance, is there anyone here in opposition? This will be item 10.3 under zoning hearings. Anyone here in opposition, item 10.3? Seeing none, we will ask for a recommendation from the board.
I make a recommendation for denial.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Seeing none, motion fails.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and and a second for approval. Now, any discussion?
Why couldn't you add the 2 acres to the other tracts of the land?
I've got, can you see the big plot here?
I have.
I've got this tract here, somebody interested in it, and these 2 tracts is 4-acre tracts. There's no way to divide it up. This one is down Nugget Road, and there's another house built, it's R2 right next to it here. So it's still gonna be almost a 3-acre tract, and then I was gonna keep the others in 4-acre tracts. There's no way to divide it up any other way. If I was to try to put the 2 acres, I gotta put it somewhere. Or it would be, no, these would have to become a 7-acre tract or something like that. But you know the price of land, it's hard to sell 7 acres in Carroll County at 10,000 acres. People just don't want to pay it.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
The next item is rezoning application Z-18-02-02, rezone property from ag to industrial at 1600 Lake Paradise Road. Lease Purchase 2 Inc. is the owner. They would like to have a real estate leasing office as well as store heavy equipment, including roll-off dumpsters. This property is 21.92 acres. It's land lot 196 of the 6th District, tax map 146-0633. This is in Commissioner Lee's district. Staff recommended approval. Planning Commission had a motion for approval that did not pass, and the applicant is present.
Say that one. The last, what did you say?
Planning Commission, the motion was to approve, and it failed.
Okay, but staff,
Staff recommended approval.
okay.
I would like to get My name is Tony Tripp. Mr. Chairman and other commissioners, I appreciate your time. I live at 4356 Chimney Hill Drive in Douglasville, Georgia. Prior to getting started, I would like to call your attention to the notice at 10.4. Our application made no reference to storing heavy equipment, including roll-off dumpsters. I'm not sure why that exists on here. I've heard a couple of fantasies in these hearings about what we're going to do with this property. So before I move on to the history and all, let me talk about what we're not going to do. We're not going to store heavy equipment. I have no intention of putting roll-off dumpsters. We're not going to build a big warehouse and do manufacturing or distribution or anything of that nature. We're not going to have heavy trucks greater than 6 wheels on this property. The only vehicles that will be going in and out of this property are pickup trucks. We have an F-350 pickup truck that has a dump bed on it and a dump trailer. Somehow or another that has turned into a massive dumpster business. So I would like to just make a point to bring that up to start with, because I feel like that's been slightly misrepresented here. Moving on to the history of the property. We acquired this property about 10 years ago at foreclosure sale, which is our primary business. We own a bunch of rental property. We buy and sell a ton of property, and we build property. The gentleman that owned this property before us had a ton of heavy equipment here. Lots of equipment, just tons of heavy equipment back there. Obviously, it wasn't approved for that, but it was there for a really long time. Obviously, we haven't done that since we acquired it. It's just been a leased residential property. Considering the nature of our business, we buy a ton of material in bulk. Ceiling fans, 2x4s, water faucets, tons of things like this, because if we buy these things in bulk, as you can imagine, that helps our bottom line out. Currently, we have as many as 5 different locations that we store all this stuff at. The sole intent of our building a building on this property, which you can see on the survey, I've represented exactly where that building is going to be to scale. We just want to store our stuff there. The whole reason we have ended up with an industrial designation is simply because the current zoning ordinance doesn't allow for us to do O&I. If you use greater than 25% of the building for storage, you can't go O&I. You have to be industrial. So I realize it feels scary to our neighbors, and we respect that, and we're sensitive to that. Just like the gentleman that spoke a moment ago, he used it for personal storage. Now, obviously, we're a business, but what this will feel like and look like and read like is personal storage, no different than probably what anybody in this room's garage looks like. Now, we have a picture in our packet we gave you of what our planned building looks like, and it has bay doors on there. It's about 15 feet high. As you can see through these pictures, there is a ton of natural buffer around this entire parcel. If you walk around this parcel, you could not see where this building is. You couldn't see it, not unless you trek onto our land and walk over to it. You aren't going to see it, not from the road, not from a neighbor's house, not from anywhere. You just can't do it, and we've tried. These doors have a couple of folks scared that we're going to bring in, again, this heavy equipment because this designation is written on here. But again, you can see the pictures in the packet that we've submitted to you guys. The vehicles that will be in this property are on page 8. Again, an F-350 pickup, a dump trailer, a carry-on trailer, and a couple other pickup trucks. The residential dwelling that exists in the front of this parcel will be used as our office. We have exactly 4 employees, me, my business partners, and an office manager. We all work out of our homes now. We simply just want a centralized place to have an office, and we need to have meetings and things of that nature. We can do it there. So that's it in a nutshell. As you can see from the picture on the survey, the building is a small footprint. It only takes up about a little less than 1% of the entire parcel. I don't think it's going to have any effect on water runoff or anything of that nature. We feel very confident that none of our neighbors will feel any disruption to their quiet enjoyment of their properties. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tripp. Anybody else here to speak in favor? Speak in favor, please come forward.
Their time.
Oh, you got 20 seconds still left?
20 seconds.
Got 20 seconds.
My name is Anita Cook, and I live at 1512 Evelyn Drive. And last week, a bunch of us were at the other board meeting, and we all opposed it because we had the rumor mill going saying it was going to be dumpsters and that kind of thing there. And the property actually, it runs in residential, and it's residential on both sides and behind it, and then there's another industrial park.
All right, but you are in favor?
I am in favor now, absolutely. As long as restrictions are put in that he can't do those things.
And that will be discussed.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. All righty, we're going to open up the time, new time, 7 o'clock for those in opposition. Anyone here in opposition? Yes, sir. You'll have a combined of 10 minutes for opposition.
I live at 1708, which is right beside their property. Been there for 40 years.
What's your name, sir?
James Shepherd.
You state your name.
And they're only wanting to park a few vehicles on a 150 by 80 building. And if you look at the front page, there's a 3-car garage on the property already built with the house. How come they can't use that? And actually, we've been trying to find out for years who owns the property because we have bad runoff already. And I was gonna get with him after these meetings is over with to see if we can't, used to they come back there with a bulldozer and bulldoze it down to make a ditch back there to where it ain't flooding our property out. And I do got videos and pictures at home that I forgot, but my thing is it's all residential around there, and now they want to make it, you know, this big building and all back there and this big business, and it's just a country street that don't need none of this.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Come forward, please. State your name and address. And
my name is Zach Akers. I live at 336 Lake Drive. We're just around the corner. Our major concerns are once this property is zoned commercial, that it'll remain commercial. And should the applicant decide to sell it, it's open to, you know, any commercial activity. There's a very high amount of foot traffic on Lake Paradise. Everything from children to people walking back and forth to other stores. There's a county park there. Almost every time that you're on that stretch of road, there's somebody there. So we're concerned for that, and also for the noise, because it's residential on all sides. And, you know, 2 miles away, there's a big industrial park. There's plenty of available spaces, you know, to purchase for storage or to run a business out of. So that's our concerns.
okay. Anyone else in opposition?
My name is Pat Edelman. I live 1230 Lake Paradise. We have more people supposed to come, but the meeting was supposed to start at 6:30, so some of them hadn't got here. My biggest concern is the traffic. He says there's not going to be big trucks, but these roads are very small. There's school buses that goes up and down through there. It's hard when a school bus gets up and down through there when a car's coming. And he has pictures of a junkyard right across from where I live. And he just wanted to point out that there's other things on Lake Paradise. This is a perfect example of what we're worried about. This here used to be also, this gentleman that used to own it, it was just like a place for him to have his little trailer, little tractor. He had a pile of dirt, pile of gravel. It was just a little storage area for him. Well, he kept getting stolen. We have a problem with drug addicts that lives over there. He kept getting all of his equipment and stuff stolen. So he sold it. We did not know that he had sold it. He had sold it to Huey's Record Service. And they also let PBH that goes and gets repossessed cars, just bring their cars in over there and set them. There's just a few cars for a while. But now if you look right now, you can't put another car on this lot. It was just supposed to be in a little storage for 1 or 2 cars. The city or county or somebody asked them to put a green fence up, a privacy fence. Well, the fence is tore down. It looks awful. And PBH pulled out because they kept stealing all the customers' vehicles. So now it's all Huey's. So that's what we're trying to tell you, that once you let one come in that just wants to storage, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, then next thing you know, they're going to pull out, they're going to sell to somebody else. And This is our homes. You know, this is no place for industrial. These are where we live. We have children, grandchildren. We don't need this right there.
Okay.
And like I said, our biggest thing is the roads. Transfer trucks are getting hung on these roads.
That's
They're
the
having to get wreckers to pull them out.
Close out on time.
Oh, I'm
10
sorry.
minutes. You're fine. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, we've heard both opposition proponents under the 10 minutes. Now we're going to allow both sides to come back with a 5-minute rebuttal. So we'll call the applicant first.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and other commissioners. We certainly respect all that they have brought to our attention, some valid points, of course. It's our intent to fence this entire property. The primary focus, the other gentleman that spoke about the garage there, which makes sense, I can see why a person would think that, is because when we put our building in the back, our 12,000 square foot building, one, that's the amount of space that we're gonna need. It's my intent to put those vehicles that you see the picture of inside that building, along with all the other stuff that I described to you guys, so that we can secure it. So those items will be inside there. It'd be important to us to be able to secure those items. Whereas if I put them in that garage in the front, I'm not gonna have near the success securing that property up front. That's the whole purpose of that. Part two is we abut the industrial parkway. We're not just in the area of it. Our parcel touches that industrial parkway already. So you could walk right from our parcel right into that industrial parkway. You know, so from a proximity standpoint, you know, we're already there. The young lady speaking about the parcel up the road, the reason why we took those pictures is we're just as disgusted by that as they are. Our property's gonna look like that. We've been in business for 20 years. We buy property and we keep it. We buy more property and we keep that property. Now, I can't sit here and predict the future any more than anybody can. Is something gonna happen one day that it gets sold? Well, sure, that's a possibility. Zero intention, zero intention. It's our intention to own this forever. Plain and simple. It will look beautiful, it will look great, it won't be noisy. I just don't think anybody's quiet enjoyment will be disturbed 1 ounce. We're not gonna have vehicles up and down that road affecting children. We're sensitive to that. We all have kids as well. We get it. It's not gonna be a problem.
Mr. Tritt, thank you. Anybody else under the rebuttal? Seeing none, we'll call the rebuttal, 5-minute rebuttal for the opposition. If the opposition has any more rebuttal?
Mike Kenny, 3200 Old Van Wert Road, and I use that road regular basis daily. And I also have a house on Lake Drive. Just to put it in perspective, Mr. Tritt mentions that that property butts up to the industrial park, 200 feet butts up to the industrial park. 3,000 feet of his property butts up to residential homes. So there's the majority surrounding that is residential.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition under the 5-minute rebuttal? Yes, ma'am. Take your, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am, take your time.
My name is Gwen Melvin. I live at 1812 Lake Paradise Road. If this goes through, all of us that live on the west side of that property are on wells. And if there is any kind of oil or diesel or anything like that up there, it will ruin our wells, ruin our drinking water. It will also, the creek above my neighbor's property runs into the main creek, and the main creek runs into Lake Paradise, which is Billerica water. Billerica gets their water from that lake that creek runs into. So it'll be polluting the watershed as well as our places. We have, it backs up to my property, my backyard where my children play, because I don't let them play in the front yard, my grandchildren that is. I don't let them play in the front yard because it is next to a street. And I don't think that street is capable of handling any kind of heavy traffic, like larger trucks and things like that. Once in a while, an 18-wheeler comes through there, and he practically got the road to himself. So those are my main concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else in opposition under the rebuttal? Yes, sir.
My name is Zach Akers, 336 Lake Drive. I just wanted to reiterate that this is a permanent thing. You know, this area's been residential for a long, long time. And again, if I know his intention is to stay there, but if something changes, they move, you know, you open it up to, you know, potential, you know, big trucks, roll-offs. Even though it's not his intention, the opportunity would be there from now on. I mean, it's permanent, and that's one of our concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Any more time? Still time if there's anybody in opposition under rebuttal. We'll ask a second time. Anybody else under the 5-minute rebuttal in opposition? If not, we'll close time. Time is expelled. We'll look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion to deny.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second of denial. Now, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those that are in favor of the denial, please show by signature of right hand. All those opposed, thank you.
The next item that I have is rezoning application Z-18-02-03, rezoning with a conditional use to keep salvage cars on property as a hobby. The applicant is Melvin John Arant. The property is located at 2895 Bowden Tice Road in Bowden, consists of 2.67 acres, land lot 220 of the 11th District, tax map number 0480019. This is in Commissioner Chambers District. Staff recommended denial of this, and the Planning Commission also recommended denial. The applicant is present.
Okay, we'll call on the applicant.
Good evening. I'm probably over my head in this. All I'm trying to do is to keep a personal collection of classic cars. People keep referring
What's your
as...
name?
Oh, sorry. Melvin John Arant, 2895 Bowden Tice Road. Like I said, I'm just trying to keep a private collection, a 20-year collection of classic cars. Some is in disrepair, some are, you know, half stripped. I take parts from one to make another one, and then take what's left to the crusher. This is not a salvage yard, it's not a junkyard, it's a private land. I'm a homeowner. I didn't buy an HOA property. You know, I just don't understand what the problem is. Like I've said in the other board meeting, if the people that had a complaint would have came to me, we probably wouldn't even be here. Put up a privacy fence, nobody'd ever know they're there. They mentioned 50 cars, the actual count was 43, and I've already removed 7 of them and plan for another car to be removed tomorrow. Stuff just changes hands, you know, buy, swap, sell, trade. It's something that I've been doing for 20 years. Some of these cars has family history, just a personal collection. And I really don't have anything else to add. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor? This is item 10.5. Seeing none, we'll close out the 10 minutes. Is there anyone in opposition of item 10.5?
My name is Parnell Barrell. I live at 2858 Bowden Tice Road. There's one house across from him, and I live the next house beside it. This man has 50-something cars on this property. He has 2 trailers, an old double wide that's dilapidated. There's trees and limbs all over the yard. The trees have got limbs hanging down from them. He's got a house and a building out back. And this property has looked this way for a long, long time. And if you see those pictures I'm passing around, you'll know. And we just don't need it in this neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood. We have, I've got 17 names on there, and 3 of the people that signed the property joins this property. And we've got 3 people that are disabled in our neighborhood, and we've got people that are elderly, and they don't want it, and I don't want it. And then we've got a man that has pasture land that joins it, and he's afraid of it for that reason, because of the chemicals that come out. So we just oppose it.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else here in opposition of item 10.5 under the zoning? Seeing none, we'll open it up to the rebuttal. We've got the 5-minute rebuttal. Anybody, the proponent?
Yes, just wanted to address what she said. When we bought the property 5 years ago, it had a mobile home on it. It is currently there. When we bought the property, the barn was there. The outbuilding was there. I've added 1 storage building and 2 travel trailers. There was a swimming pool put up last summer. And yes, there is branches down in the yard because of the snow and the bad winter that we had. Don't have a chainsaw at the moment, so waiting until I could get that and get all that cleared up. We're in the process of clearing that right now. The mention of 50 cars, there is 11 that is tagged, registered, drivable, that gets driven. They're not all junk cars. I have 5 on my personal insurance. My fiance has 3 cars. There's 5 people in our family and this property of driving age. We all have multiple personal vehicles, so 11 of those are personal vehicles. If the problem is the looks, a privacy fence would cure that. As a conditional use rezoning, give me 30 days, 60 days. I'll put up a 6 or an 8 foot privacy fence and problem solved. There's no increase in traffic. There's no increase in noise. I may have 5 or 6 people per month coming out to trade a car, get a part, whatever. So nothing more than anybody else would have visitors. I do any of the stripping of the cars in my personal shop behind my home. All fluids are contained in recyclable containers. Nothing is out of the ordinary as far as a bad situation. Put up a privacy fence, and I feel that nobody would have a problem. Just give me that opportunity instead of throwing away 20 years of a car collection. Thank you.
Thank you. Under the rebuttal, anybody else in favor? Seeing none, we're closing out the 5-minute rebuttal. We'll go to the 5-minute rebuttal in opposition.
This man says that this is a hobby. I don't know why he needs 50 cars out there for a hobby. The property looks terrible, and it has from the time he came. It just hasn't started. And we have had more noise. And I've had people stop me at my mailbox to ask me where the person was that sold parts to cars. And we just don't need it in our neighborhood.
Anyone else in opposition under the rebuttal? Seeing none, we're gonna close out the clock. Time is exhausted. We'll look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion of denial, but I also want to have some discussion, please, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
I second that.
We have a motion and we have a second of denial. Now we're gonna open the floor for discussion from the board.
Ma'am, to your point, the gentleman spoke about voluntarily putting up the privacy fence. Would that help your concerns? It would not. Based on the conversations you've had with other neighbors, would that help their concerns, in your opinion? Yes, I mean, and he also acknowledged that that was on the property when he purchased it, correct? The double wide, sir?
Yes, sir. One of the double wide might have been, but the other two trailers weren't, and the 50 cars weren't.
Sir, were the cars on the property when you purchased it?
No, the cars was not.
Okay.
When we purchased the property, we just had our personal cars, and I had about 8 or 10 collectible cars that I moved and then acquired more over the years.
Okay.
In fact, the 8 that was there for the last 4 years was behind the shop, and nobody even knew they was there.
So I guess my question is are we at an impasse as far as coming to a compromise on this?
I don't know how, it's just 2.67 acres is what he's got. So I don't know how he could hide all that stuff he's got.
But he did acknowledge the fact that he would put up a privacy fence.
And I'll look for any, options or recommendations, anything that needs to be done, I will do with no complaint. Privacy fence.
I'm gonna call for the applicant or one to come up so we can get it on record here, please, to where
Please,
you're
and maybe
speaking.
I should have done that, Mr.
Yes, sir,
Chairman.
we're
I
fine.
apologize.
Just wanna make sure we're recording everything.
Yes, Melvin John Arant. I'll do anything that's necessary to resolve this issue, privacy fence, move them out of sight, plant vegetation if necessary, whatever. That's the reason why it's being a conditional use rezoning. Like I said, I'm in over my head. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep a private collection. So y'all tell me what I need to do and it'll get done.
And I think that's the request that the neighbors are trying to work. I think that
Right, and
Commissioner Chambers.
that's why I was trying to ask for some common ground. If there was something that could be worked out where everybody would be amiable.
If he had cleaned this place up in the time that
Please go up there so it can be recorded, please, ma'am.
How long have you lived here?
5 years.
That's what I thought. In all this time that he's been here, that place has never been cleaned up, don't look like. The grass doesn't get cut, the trees. You can see in those pictures.
I understand that. And that was from one perspective after a big storm we had. For the first 3 years, I cut the grass 2 times a week.
It's been looking like that for ages, sir.
If
Okay,
maybe
yeah, we're not gonna debate the issue.
I'm gonna, and
Commissioner's just looking for some common ground.
I'll answer one question
Okay.
as to Ben Skipper, Community Development Director. Code enforcement only allows 2 untagged vehicles to be maintained on your property. So,
And that's the reason why
And that's why.
I'm here trying to get a.
code enforcement went out and would have issued a citation, but the applicant made a request prior to a citation that he could apply for a zoning.
Okay.
The only zoning that would allow this many untagged vehicles in Carroll County would be industrial for a junkyard.
All right, this time we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Anything, Commissioner Chambers?
no, I was just hoping that perhaps we could find some common ground on this, but apparently we're at an impasse.
Okay, with that, we've got a motion and a second for denial. We'll ask those all in favor to support the denial. show it by raising a hand. All those in opposition of the denial, show it by hand. Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. No discussion. Seeing so, we stand adjourned. All those in favor? Adjourn.